is wildlife biologist Eric Orff with my New Hampshire Fish and Wildlife YouTube channel. This afternoon I'm at the Fish and Game Department's Region 3 office in Durham interviewing Cheri Patterson. She and I worked together for much of my career. I started in the fall of '76 and she started in the summer of '77, and through much of that career early on I was in the fisheries division as she was, and she continues to be in the marine division here on the coast, where I actually spent the last 20 years of my decade here at the Region 3 office in Durham before I retired in '07. But Cheri's still here, and I am picking her brain today about some programs that happened here on the coast. The coho salmon earlier. Now we're going to talk about Atlantic salmon, which, you know, because I worked out of the Region 3 office here, I got to help out now and then with the Atlantic salmon restoration effort here on the coast. And Cheri probably led that program, or more or less, I guess, and kind of made sure what happened over a number of years. So Cheri, when did that start? About?
Probably late 80s, early 90s.
Okay, so as the coho salmon wound down, within a year or two this one picked up?
No, actually we tried to get other West Coast species.
Oh, really?
But we couldn't go across the Continental Divide because of disease.
All right.
So we went to the Great Lakes. And we started out with Chinook.
Oh, really?
Salmon.
I didn't know that.
Yes, we went to hatchery in New York.
Huh.
Where the salmon actually swim back to the hatchery.
Yep. Okay, I've been there. Yes.
And took the eggs and such from there. Brought them back to the hatchery here, Milford Hatchery, and raised them. And we also tried steelhead trout.
Okay.
Also from the Great Lakes. And
this is all new information. This is awesome.
Neither of those programs took.
Okay.
We
Very
just
interesting.
didn't get very much return at all.
Okay.
So that took us probably for another 6 or 7 years past
the coho.
Probably the 8 years past the coho before we started up with seeing if we could restore Atlantic salmon back to our coastal waters. And this was a little bit different of a program because we were looking at getting an egg source for the Atlantic salmon, which we started out using freshwater salmon females and getting milk from sea run stock of Atlantic salmon.
Okay. And from Maine or Quebec? I mean, or Nova Scotia?
No, these would have been from Maine.
Okay.
And we raised those up until this springtime, hatched them out in the hatchery, stocked them into our own river systems, our own coastal river systems. So we had them up in their freshwater habitat, their normal freshwater habitat that they would have been in eons ago. Right. In the Lamprey and Cocheco River systems. And we had, in the springtime, a lot of volunteers that would come in. We'd organize a day of volunteers where we would get up to 100 volunteers. We had sections of the tributaries and the main stem of the Lamprey and the Cocheco set aside for certain numbers of volunteers, and then we would just set them free. Hatchery truck would go and meet them in certain spots along the river systems, and they would just start either canoeing down or they would walk down and scatter stock these sack fry.
Right, so they're about 1 inch long baby salmon, and lucky for me because I worked out of this office, and because the year before some of the volunteers had overturned the canoe and lost their camera, which they were unhappy with, so Cheri drafted me into the program, and sure enough, every spring for maybe a decade, I would get either volunteers or mostly I drafted here, my children, and we would canoe the Lamprey. In April, I'm guessing, the water was running pretty high, and so we would load up, I don't know, 50 or 100,000 fry, a whole big bucket full or two of fry. And we would set off in Raymond on the Lamprey, and down we'd go down to, down to
Messed
the,
up in Gam.
yeah, somewhere down in
Which is
there.
now gone.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we would canoe that stretch, my daughter in the front of the canoe paddling like crazy through the rapids, and me and my son in the middle scooping salmon out as quickly as he could through the rapids, because that's where they have to go,
That's
in the
right.
aerated water, only in the rapids and nowhere else. So it was good duty. I enjoyed doing that for whatever, and certainly a fond memory of taking it and being lucky enough to utilize my family for that portion of it. So thank you for those good memories, which all come from thanks to you.
A lot of families were involved. It was something that they looked forward to doing each spring, that was for sure.
Yeah.
Boy Scouts would show up, Cub Scouts would show up, we would have just a wide array of
Oh, I remember meeting
volunteers
some of them,
just
yeah, at
there.
different drop-off points, yeah.
Yeah, we had a lot of,
It
lot
was,
of times.
it was certainly good PR for the department, absolutely, you know. So how'd they make out?
So they would stay in the river for a year, so we'd go back in the fall, and we would electrofish where you guys stocked
Right,
them
yep,
to see if they were still there. And they would be as par, and then the following spring they would head out
yep,
to the ocean. And they would come back at 3, 4, or 5-year-old as adults.
yep,
But we never got enough returns to be able to have a self-supporting run.
okay.
So we had to continually go out and get eggs.
Cross,
We actually tried to get complete sea runs.
Oh, really?
We went up to Maine on several occasions at
Oh.
their aquaculture
okay,
facilities way up near the Canadian border.
all right, oh, cool,
And would get
pure,
eggs, yeah, would
Wow.
get sea run strain
Okay.
eggs from them
Yeah.
and bring them back down
Just
to our
to-
hatcheries. And it still didn't,
Huh.
it still wasn't enough.
okay.
We didn't have enough habitat is what we determined.
So how many
For them
eggs
to
were you, I
live.
mean, how many fry were you putting out on an annual basis, do you remember, or about?
Definitely in the hundreds of thousands.
Okay,
We would put out, well, maybe 100, 200,000 between each river system.
okay.
And we just didn't get enough adults to return. in
What was
order
the most
to
you ever got back?
At the most, maybe 50,
Okay,
maybe.
but 50 Atlantic salmon, I mean, that's, the Merrimack wouldn't have that some years when they were putting 1 million fry in the Merrimack system.
Yeah,
Wow,
maybe 50. Most of the time not, most of the time much lower.
okay. When did that wrap up, sort of?
So as you said, I think it went for about a decade into maybe 15 years.
Okay.
That probably wrapped up late,
Around 2000 maybe?
yeah, late 1990s
Okay.
or early 2000s
All right.
in that case. And we just couldn't supply another fall sort of fishing opportunity for
Huh.
people.
Right,
We tried sea run brown trout
Right.
also at times, and
Huh.
it didn't take, so.
well, there were some, Barry Brook is certainly well known for that.
Barry Brook again has
But-
got some that return, but very few
You know,
compared to what.
2,000 hours of fishing to catch one, you know, that's a,
Yeah,
it's a tough,
definitely over 200, 300 hours of fishing before you can catch one.
so brown trout were tried, and other streams as well?
Yes, we put them in the Taylor River system.
Okay.
You know, there was some thought that they needed to be closer to the ocean. They didn't.
Okay,
They didn't like to
Run
come
far.
far into an estuary,
Okay.
into a river system in the estuary. We just don't have any big river systems that are on the coast of New
Okay.
Hampshire. So Barry Brook, Taylor River.
right,
Taylor River, we just didn't get any
right,
returning enough to
Huh.
really even run the fish ladder
okay.
in the Taylor.
The tail's kind of warmed up because it's even lost its alewife run to some degree, hasn't it? The herring run.
Yeah, we've got pretty poor water quality in
Yeah,
that
yeah.
Taylor impoundment, so they're probably succumbing to poor water quality conditions
Lack of
before
oxygen,
they're able
yeah,
to
yeah.
migrate out to the ocean.
Wow.
Yeah.
How about brook trout? Anything, any like sea run brook trout? Anything ever happened there? Do you remember?
So-
Are there some brooks that have them?
Brook trout, we do have returning every now and then. They're probably from our freshwater stocking
Okay.
that
All
get
right.
pushed over some of these dams.
Yep,
And we do find them in the fish ladders in the
Okay.
spring when we're operating fish ladders for the river herring runs. But again, nothing has ever really
right,
took
no,
or stood out
okay.
for any of the trout systems.
All right, we'll wrap this one up and we'll go into river herring and shad for the last shot, but we'll take a break.